here with Eric Guerrero. We're here during the Hall of Fame Honors Weekend. Eric, I mean, you live here in Stillwater. You've been around wrestling your whole life, but what was it like when you got the call that the National Wrestling Hall of Fame let you know that you got elected to be a member of the Hall of Fame?
It's kind of a surreal call.
Yeah.
I think you're quite ready to, you're not even really thinking about, that time of year. When you're coaching in college, you're getting ready to start your season. I think it's November when they call.
Right.
And so it's pleasant news. You're excited. It's humbling news. I think your mind goes to all the deserving people out there, and just to even be considered amongst the people who are even deserving to be nominated is an honor. And I was happy for my family, for my parents, and just everybody that put a lot of time into me, coaches and stuff.
You come to the Hall of Fame ceremonies each spring, because you live here and you know a lot of the people that have been inducted. How's this year been different? I mean, we're just getting started, but a lot of people here because of you.
Yeah, I got a big family. I'm one of 52 cousins on the Guerrero side.
That's wild.
And,
you know every one of them?
No. I mean, I know their names, but on a personal basis, spend time. Obviously, you can't, do that. But so yeah, there's quite a large contingency here. My wife's side of the family, obviously, just with their connections with wrestling, they're here too. So yeah, it feels good. It's different from the fact that work doesn't stop.
Oh yeah.
Just from the standpoint that it is here in Stillwater, and it's been a busy day. We got Oliver leaving today for the wrestle off in
Right.
Phoenix. Marsden leaving tomorrow for the wrestle off in Phoenix. We got camps that start Sunday, so it's been kind of a working weekend as well.
So you think back to when you were a little kid and got involved in wrestling. Talk about how that happened and who was important to turning Eric Guerrero from just some kid to a wrestler.
Oh, it takes a village, definitely. There's a lot of people. My dad was a huge influence on me, just from the standpoint that, him and his 6 brothers all wrestled, and it was just kind of something that you just knew you were going to do. Had a great youth wrestling coach in Albert Perez. My Uncle Gene coached me throughout high school. So I mean, just had a lot of people that cared, and weren't afraid to tell me what I needed to hear.
Right.
Sometimes you hear a lot more. Mentors and coaches see a lot more of your faults than you want, and I look back at those moments and their criticism, which I think sometimes gets a negative connotation. It's actually a really helpful thing, criticism.
Right.
I look back on it, and it was always for the betterment and development,
Right.
just long term as a person, as a competitor, and I say all those people were responsible, but more importantly, even as my boy starts really getting into wrestling, you realize that nothing is just happenstance. Probably a lot of what they said was not just the way they felt, but they thought about what they wanted to say. And maybe their criticism was well crafted. They knew just how to push your buttons to get the right things out of you, or to make sure you turned out a certain way. And I owe a lot to a lot of people, definitely.
Now, number 3 is a pretty important number in your career, California,
Mm-hmm.
3 high school titles.
Mm-hmm.
Not very easy to do, especially at the time when you did it. Talk about the challenge of winning the biggest state in the country as far as the amount of wrestlers and the quality of that competition. That was quite a challenge.
That's a good question, and that's just looking back to that time, looking back to California, just the people that I looked up to. I had a cousin win a state championship for Independence High School and Ruben Gonzalez in '86, and that really motivated me at however old I was at that time, 8, 9, to really chase a state championship. It's kind of like the first goal. Like, okay,
Right.
I want to be a state champion, and just watching those guys go through those journeys, and then recognizing that in California it was a process. There is 3 weeks of qualification just to get to the state meet, and watching them kind of embrace that season, because it's a tough season, just from, again, the standpoint that there's just so many numbers.
Right.
And I think going through that at a young age and watching that and watching people go through that probably helped me be prepared to do that. You know, when there was an opportunity there to do it. So, you know, in a lot of ways, you know, I had family members and teammates, future teammates, and people from my neighborhood maybe kind of paving that path, so that maybe it would have been a little easier for me, at least a little easier to understand.
So you did freestyle, international styles early in your life. Some guys, they don't get into it, and we're successful in it. Did you enjoy wrestling in the spring and summer when you were in high school and growing up?
Spring, you know, growing up, there was no organized folk style wrestling in California when I was a kid.
Right.
My first style was freestyle. My first tournament was a USA Wrestling tournament at Overfelt High School in San Jose, the high school that's down the street. And so all we wrestled was freestyle in the spring, and didn't come back to folk style till probably 7th or 8th grade. Actually start folk style till 7th or 8th grade. So we knew nothing other than to wrestle in the spring and summer. That's just what you did. And then the folk style season was just something extra you got to do for your junior high, because we had junior high county championships, state championships, things like that. So wrestling year round was just, it was an opportunity. It was a privilege. It wasn't something you're like, oh, I got to wrestle out of season. It was just something you wanted to do. You got to be around your friends. You got to travel. You know, it's summertime. Go to practice, and you go to the pool. Maybe at the high school you're practicing. So there's just a lot of great things that came with summer wrestling that that I didn't even realize was summer wrestling. It was just part of wrestling. So, but definitely, I see the importance in freestyle wrestling for my son's development. You know, he's got a USA Wrestling card. I mean, it's important that they kind of learn the base styles, and you know, learn positioning and defense and all those great things. The freestyle and Greco-Roman, Greco, to learn to throw. We work on throws and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's important.
Oklahoma State, talk about that decision. And, you know, obviously you want to challenge yourself, a great tradition. And then what it was like when you got here.
I'll tell a quick story, because I might not get to tell it tomorrow night.
Okay.
I'm 9 years old. We go to watch the Las Vegas Invitational Tournament
Sure.
in Las Vegas, the college tournament. And I bumped into Ken Lacrosse. I saw him wrestle. I was kind of a scrawny, thin kid, and he was kind of wiry. And after he won semifinal match, I asked him for his autograph. And he actually lost in the finals later that night to Jason Kelber. You know, I just kind of started getting to following wrestling, and I kind of was bummed out because I got his autograph, and he's like, "Hey, what's your name?" I was like, "I'm Eric," and he took 5 minutes to visit with me. Kendall, as everybody knows,
he's
that's
like
the kind
that.
of guy he is. And we get in the elevator, go back upstairs, and he's in there, and I kind of had my head down, and I didn't want to say anything. I'm with my Uncle Gene, and I'm like, oh gosh, I want to say, he just lost. You know, I didn't want to say anything, and he goes, "Hey, Eric, you remembered my name."
That's awesome.
Just got off the mat, got beat. You know, my uncle's looking at me like, you know, Kendall Cross, you know? And he's like, "How's it going? Are you his uncle? Your dad's?" "No, I'm his uncle." We have another 5-minute conversation. He's like, "Well, good luck this year." Just him taking that 5 minutes to spend with me, I think laid a very huge impression on me and Oklahoma State wrestling. And it doesn't mean you don't drift one way or another as you're going through certain times in your young career in terms of where you might want to go. But there was always a big piece of my heart cut out for the Cowboys. So when I had that opportunity, I jumped on it, and a lot of it was because of Kendall.
Now, you had a lot of success in college. You wrestled a lot of tough guys. You know, your college years were a journey. You got to wrestle in Gallagher-Iba. I mean, talk a little bit about succeeding in this traditional program, and you know, the reasons you got to the point where you could win 3 NCAA titles here.
Oh, it's pretty simple. It's expectation. There's a lot of expectation here. And you really don't feel like there's any other alternative but to meet that expectation. I feel fortunate. I grew up in a time where there was no internet, there was no Twitter, there was no distractions unless you created distractions, and I found it very easy in this program because of the makeup of the coaches and the makeup of just the history and the level of expectation to kind of just lose myself in being here. And these lose yourself in your training, and you lose yourself in what it is that you want. And not that there's not highs and lows, but the expectation is so great, and the people who are around you are so, their expectations are so high that there's almost this unfair advantage sometimes where you feel like you've got, 1915, so it's this coming season. I mean, you feel like you have those, just all those years of that history just pushing you, and there's this great energy behind it.
Yeah.
You don't have to look too far for inspiration. I mean, many times I just go in there and just read the names on the walls, and you look for somebody. I got fifth as a freshman. I look for somebody who was fifth and then won it the next year,
Sure.
and I'd read up on that guy and be like, okay, well, this guy did it, and you try to find out. You ask questions. I used to ask Coach Tommy Chesbro tons of questions. What was this guy like, and what was he like, and what did he do? And you just didn't have to look far for that inspiration. The motivation's got to come within, but that inspiration was always present. So it's a credit to Oklahoma State as an institution and as a wrestling program that through all those years, and all the head coaches and all the assistant coaches, that expectation has never dropped.
Right.
It's always been high, and when you really buy into it and you really feel part of it, it does feel like you got a whole army behind you just driving you to what you want. As long as you're motivated to chase it on a daily basis, it's that opportunity's there.
So are there any specific matches or a tournament or part of your college career that you really look back at and feel good about, feel proud of?
There's a lot of things that obviously you feel pride in. I'd say that one of the greatest lessons I learned actually came from defeat. Now, people say all the time, well, that loss was the best thing that ever happened to me. I don't buy it. No. Losses are never good. You just got a choice to. You just have a choice to let it break you, or you move forward and you break records. And while losses are never good, there's one loss in particular that I recognized a great flaw in my mentality. And after that loss, winning didn't get easier, but winning became much more, something that felt totally within the control of your preparation, the control of your mentality, your outlook on things. So the memories that I look back on, I look back on that just one particular loss and going, not good. It wasn't anything other
Does it
than,
matter who it was?
Yeah, it matters who it was. It was Doug Schwab.
Okay. Another Olympian.
Who would have known? But the bottom line is the bottom line was this, the outlook, went from that loss to me winning the NCAA championship that year, and him going 0-2. So regardless of who won, it's all about what you do the next day and the viewpoint you have on your win or loss the next day. So when I look back in college, I see all those moments as just one big lesson that, if you don't look at it the right way, it's going to affect you down the road. So you better look at them the right way, win or lose.
So talk about the Olympic dream. You must have had it young, and obviously being around here, I just walk past pictures all over the walls of this arena of Olympic champions and heroes for our country. Talk about your journey there and what drove you. And obviously you had a tough weight class when you were wrestling. You had some other people that had some high achievements and are going to be in the Hall of Fame right next to you that you were competing against. What was important about your freestyle career, and how did you get to the point where you could make world teams and Olympic teams?
Well, good coaching, and not that coaching can do it for you, but just maybe having someone like John to bounce ideas off of, and, you know, be there to tell you when, you know, hey, that's not going to cut it, that's just not good enough. You know, and sometimes you need to hear that when you come out of college, because it is truly a different level. You're not wrestling the best guys in the nation,
right.
College level, college age guys. You know, you're wrestling the best men in the world, and that advice and, you know, and that sharp tongue can save you a lot of time. You know, and I wrestled in the 1999 World Championships, you know, right out of college, and probably was only in a position to even challenge for that spot because that I chose a coach that had the experience to help me get there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I can't say that I would have made the team had I chosen somebody who, say, had no Olympics experience.
Sure.
I can't say that. I mean, I can't take all the credit. You know, you have to have some mentorship. So from the freestyle aspect, I mean, when you got a string of straight, you know, what was our string? I know we got a string of Olympians dating back to, I think, 1920 something.
Yeah, yeah.
I know Coleman making that team
mm-hmm.
Kept that streak alive in 2012. You know, how can you not listen? So, you know, the Olympic experience here is a great thing because it's valued, as you probably saw downstairs when we have our medalists, and then we have
Absolutely.
walls for our Olympians, and it's something valued within the community, and to go through that experience, not just by myself, but actually with other teammates, and Jamil Kelly and Daniel Cormier.
Mm-hmm.
Those are fun years, you know, and it makes the journey competitive. You're constantly competing with each other, and makes it enjoyable, and it makes for a lot of fond memories. And in a lot of ways, it's like getting your doctorate degree in wrestling. I mean, you get to go to Dagestan, you get to go to the Islamic Republic of Iran, and Korea, and all these places that you'd never get to go if you just stopped wrestling after college.
Sure.
You know, you'd never get to make friends with you know, people from that part of the world that, you know, that we just don't travel to. So I look back on that experience, and I just see it as just this great education that you get while you're competing in sport.
Mm-hmm.
And you make great friendships along the way. A lot of the guys I've competed against, we still email and things like that, and do favors for each other, gifts for the kids, and all those types of things. So I mean, from the outside of the competitive realm, there's just so much to be gained by choosing to continue your college career, and I'm glad that after your college career, and I couldn't be more happy that I chose that path. I really couldn't.
Now, you did reach the goal of making the Olympic Games. You didn't get the medal you wanted. But what are your thoughts of that Olympics? I mean, not very many people have the experience of walking into an opening ceremonies or being able to put it out on the line
Mm-hmm.
when
Mm-hmm.
in the biggest event in your sport.
Bittersweet. You know, I think in time you recognize that there's just people that are better than you,
Mm-hmm.
and you want to change. You know, you always want to look back and go, I could have changed this, I could have changed that. Well, yeah, there's things you can always change, hindsight. However, I know the guys that medaled that year were just better than me, and there's no shame in that. You know, there's no shame in that. And maybe it takes you a couple of years,
No.
maybe even a decade, which I think yeah, we're a decade out from Athens. But you know, the Olympics is the Olympics. I mean, there's not even a way to define it. You know, it's the epitome of our sport, and to be able to participate in that is a great honor to represent your country, and to be around other great athletes in the world, and sharing fellowship and friendship, and you know, take down barriers in the name of sport is a great honor. You always want more.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes you just don't earn it, and you take that lesson and you apply it to something going down the road.
And we're going to talk about coaching because that's what you're doing right now. You know, obviously Oklahoma State, where you wrestled, has this great tradition, and now it's your job on a daily basis to work with young men to continue that tradition and to, you know, maybe bring back some more NCAA titles for the school and individual achievements. You know, what's it like coaching here? We're coaching with John, but also coaching where you were an athlete, in a place that makes a difference in your life.
It's a privilege, and I acknowledge that coaching is truly a privilege. I mean, you get to get involved with 40 young men on a yearly basis and really try to make a difference in their life. Sometimes you got to drag them into a better life, kicking and screaming.
Right.
But I do know they all appreciate it when they're done. It's an opportunity to give back. It's an opportunity to give back to my life's immensely better because of Oklahoma State University, and it owes me nothing, but I owe a whole lot to Oklahoma State University. So I see coaching as just this great privilege to repay that time back, that energy back that was invested in me. It wasn't just the 5 years that I was, on scholarship. It was everybody that put in time before that, so this place could be what it is when I got here. And you always want to leave it better for the next guy. So, you put in time now, not just for these 40 athletes, but to create a situation that's going to be good for the next 40 athletes, in the next 40 years, in the next 80 years.
Yep.
And you keep building on that. So it's a great honor and it's a great privilege. And as everybody else does here, we take it very serious. And it's fun to be around young men. It's fun to be around them and watch them grow and watch them develop and go through struggles and help them learn how to deal with their struggles. And on the occasions where there's great triumphs, I mean, it's special.
So you're going in this weekend with Kerry McCoy, who was one of your teammates at the Olympics and was from your era of wrestling. And, I mean, does that feel good to be able to share that with somebody that was a part of your journey?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we talked that day that we found out on the phone. We played phone tag for, an hour or so, and finally got a hold of him. I said, "This distinguished member, Kerry McCoy?" And he kind of laughed. And yeah, so I mean, that's great. Kerry's always been very kind to me, and I was kind of, he'd been around already a little bit when I was getting, he was on the 2000 Olympic team, which I didn't make that team. So he had a little international experience when I was just getting really started, and he shared a lot of that, shared a lot of, wisdom and things of that nature. So in a lot of ways, I probably never told him this. I did appreciate, the few times that we got a chance to really sit down and visit and spend time together. And he was a good person and a great athlete. So it's an honor just to even get to stand next to him tomorrow.
Well, with all you have to do here, you're going to have a chance to have fun with us this weekend.
Yeah. We got practice, and then our freestyle practice, and then we'll head over there at 6.
Well, hey, congratulations, Eric. It's a
Appreciate
wonderful achievement, and we'll certainly enjoy having the ability to share it with you.